Alderwoman Hubbard.
Good morning.
We are live. President Reed, you may proceed.
Board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Present.
Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Evans.
Present.
Alderwoman Hubbard.
Present.
Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Coder.
Here.
Alderwoman Rice.
Present.
Alderman Gunther.
Here.
Alderman Balmer.
Present.
Alderwoman Martin. Alderwoman Grass.
Present.
Alderwoman Murphy.
Here.
Alderwoman Howard.
Present.
Alderwoman Green.
Present.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Present.
Alderman Rhodey. Alderman Todd. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer.
Present.
Alderman Muhammad.
Here.
Alderman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Wait, I'm sorry, present.
Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderman Cone.
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Navarro.
Present.
President Reed.
Here.
Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderwoman Martin. Alderman Rhodey. Alderman Todd. Alderwoman Davis.
Present. Todd is present.
Thank you. Alderwoman Davis.
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. 23 present.
The quorum being present, we will be led today in prayer by Pastor Ernest Howard of Zion Temple Church in the beautiful 4th Ward. Pastor Howard. You have to unmute yourself, Pastor Howard.
Gracious and eternal God, we thank you for your people. First of all, God, we thank you also for guarding the city and every angel that you've assigned to this city, God. We thank you for the protection. And God, and those who are serving in the different capacities within the city, God, we ask for a special grace for them, that you will not only allow them to do the work, but God, become even more creative in their work. And now, God, we thank you for our frontline workers who are working in the healthcare profession that are wrestling with this pandemic every day. God, we thank you that you've always worked in methods. And even when you spat up on the ground and heal the eyes of a blind man, you used the method of the earth to heal the blinded eyes. So, God, I thank you that that same power still rests, still is in the earth. So we thank you that they will have strength today. There's a number escalate. There's no problem that's bigger than you are. And so, God, we thank you for your grace and your mercy. And as we continue our day, we ask you, God, to be with us. In the
Oh, amen.
I think we lost Pastor. Thanks, Pastor Howard. Let's give him a big round of applause and thanks for opening us up with a great prayer, Pastor Howard. Amen. We're going to suspend with our regular order of business to take up our courtesy resolutions calendar. All the one from the 19th you recognize on the motion for our courtesy resolutions calendar.
Mr. President, members of the board, I move that we adopt. We
Courtesy
suspend our
resolution
rules and
calendar.
adopt our courtesy resolution calendar.
Second.
Been moved by the Alderman from the 19th, seconded by the Alderman from the 10th. Alderman from the 19th, you're recognized on Resolution 72, and Dr. Garza is with us.
Thank you, Mr. President. It gives me great honor this morning to recognize Dr. Gaza. As I have looked and listened and been one to follow his guidance throughout this pandemic, taking a moment to recognize all of his hard work and leadership is the least that we can do. As you have looked at the resolution, I would like to ask Mr. President if it could be read for the public.
Madam Clerk, could you please read Resolution 72?
Resolution 72 honoring Alexander Garza, MD. Whereas the City of St. Louis Board of Aldermen paused in our deliberations to honor and thank Dr. Alexander Garza and the St. Louis Metropolitan Pandemic Task Force for their outstanding and selfless work in caring for our residents and leading our region during COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas Alex Garza is the incident commander of the St. Louis Metropolitan Pandemic Task Force, the St. Louis Metropolitan Pandemic Task Force is a collaboration between the area's largest healthcare systems working together to prepare for coming surge of patients and provide the best care possible. And whereas Dr. Garza also serves as Chief Community Health Officer of SSM Health, Dr. Garza has decades of experience in public health, quality and safety and policy development. He has organized and led SSM healthcare overall response to the COVID-19 pandemic before assuming the role of incident commander for the St. Louis Metropolitan Pandemic Task Force, overseeing the region's coordinated response efforts. And whereas Dr. Garza is board certified in emergency medicine, Dr. Garza has over 13 years practicing and teaching in higher education. Before joining SSM, he was an associate dean and professor at the St. Louis University College of Public Health and Social Justice. He has published numerous scientific papers on original research in peer-reviewed journals and lectured nationally and internationally. And whereas previously he served as Assistant Secretary and Chief Medical Officer to the United States Department of Homeland Security, he legislated Health Medical Biodefense Authority for the DHS and played a critical role in protecting the U.S. from threats of terrorism. Dr. Garza is also a colonel with over 20 years of service in the United States Army Reserves. He is a veteran of the Operation Iraq Freedom and serves as the command surgeon for 352 Civil Affairs Command. He also received numerous awards for his service, including the Bronze Star and the Combat Action Badge. Now, therefore, let it be resolved by the Board of Aldermen, City of St. Louis, that we thank Dr. Alexander Garza for his dedication to our community in leading and coordinating the region's response to the COVID-19 global pandemic. We further direct the clerk of this board to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of these proceedings and prepare a commemorative copy to the end that it may be presented to our honoree at a time and place deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this fourth day of December 2020 by the Honorable Louis E. Reed, Honorable Marlene Davis, Honorable Shameen Clark Hubbard, Honorable Joseph Rody, Honorable Carol Howard, Honorable Jeffrey Boyd, Honorable Dan Gunther, Honorable Heather Navarro, Honorable Joseph Okoro, Honorable Vicky Grass, and Honorable Beth Murphy. Honorable Carol Howard, if I didn't say her, and I did.
Thank you very much.
Alderman from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we sit here and reflect on where we are in this country, let's bring it to where we are in the city of St. Louis, even though our region is suffering pretty bad. We have done all our due diligence with the leadership from Dr. Ghazi, as well as our own health director, Dr. Nichols, and our mayor. Our numbers are in good shape. And it's because of the collaboration and the leadership that was put there so that the right decisions could be made and that our citizenry can look to move forward and have a better environment. We've still got a long way to go, but I think that we know that always it's about the leadership at the top. So I wanted to thank him. I wanted to also, Mr. President, give an opportunity for others who may have something to say. And I would like to have a few words at the end, please.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 24th, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. Just wanted to thank Dr. Garza for all his work on this. I'd like my name added to this, and if the sponsor of the bill deems it appropriate, I would move to make this bill in bank.
Second.
Been moved by the Alderman from the 24th, second by the Alderwoman from the 5th, that we make resolution number 72 in bank. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Garza, remember when you're out in public and people say that Board of Aldermen, they can't come together on anything. So tell them they came together for me. So that's what that means. All of the members of the Board of Aldermen have all agreed to have their name added to your resolution. And that should say something. That speaks volumes of some of the work that you've done. Alderman from the 1st.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'd like to thank Dr. Alexander Garza for not only his service on the pandemic, but also his service in the military. I come from a military family. I know the importance of that. My own sister was 23 years in the Air Force, and many cousins, uncles, 4 of my 6 uncles served in various branches of the military. What I want to say is that I appreciate all the hard work. I know that people don't want to hear what you say a lot of times. Please listen to this task force. I wish the governor of the state would listen to this task force. As I watch the things that are going on now, and our hospitals are being filled up because people did not want to hear what you had to say, and they think that their right outweighs public health. It does not. Everybody has rights, but they are limited. You cannot yell fire in a crowded theater, which we can't even go to theaters right now anymore, but you can't do anything you want to because you want to. None of these people are trying to hurt you. They are trying to protect not only you and your family, but the public, general public at large. If I could have one wish today, it would be that our governor, who is intent on telling us where our police can live, would have that same thing to tell people to wear masks in other parts of this state. Because if we wanted to be petty, we could say, well, Fisher didn't wear masks. Don't come to the city of St. Louis and fill up our hospitals. But we are not going to say that. But we're going to run out of room if we do not listen to health professionals. I am very fortunate. I have several health professionals who live here in the city of St. Louis that are in my family. Nobody is trying to hurt you. Nobody is trying to take away your individual rights. Dr. Garza and other people are trying to save lives. We are a community. We are more than just one person and one right. You know, if you want to drive 100 miles an hour down Kings Highway, you cannot. We have laws about that. The people who says they shouldn't be able to tell us to wear masks. I grew up with no shoes, no shirts, no service all of my life. So to just say to wear a mask, if you're not even trying to save your own life, They're trying to save your child's life, your grandmother's life, your parents' life, and the public at large. This is no joke. I know that sometimes people don't appreciate it. I appreciate the sponsor of this resolution, and I appreciate all the work that you all do. And anything I could ever do to help, thank you very much. And again, thank you for both services, both as a member of the Pandemic Task Force and the military.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman from the 5th, you had your hand up earlier and then it came down. I want to make sure we're not skipping you.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to be added as a sponsor. I'm fine now. I lowered it. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman from the 22nd.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the Board of Aldermen. Thank you, Dr. Garza, for your service, Colonel Garza, your service to our country. Thank you for your service to the city of St. Louis. You have certainly been a face of information about what's going on in our region, and I'm hoping more people are taking advantage of your recommendations. As someone who has been exposed, who I was a victim of COVID-19, and several members of my family, my wife is an RN at BJC, it's very serious. We were very fortunate, I thank God, on Thanksgiving that we did not have to be hospitalized and take advantage of your exceptional services, but this is real. I'm talking to quite a few friends who got exposed, but no one in their family got exposed, or other friends, they just don't know where it came from. But certainly wearing a mask, we cannot be cautious enough. We cannot be overly cautious. This is very serious and it's very painful. It is painful regardless if you are put on a ventilator or not. I mean, the excruciating bone aching pains that I experienced, I would not wish on my enemy. This is very serious stuff. We need to get serious as a community. Like the Alderman from the 1st said, you know, wearing a mask, it's just simple. If you don't care about yourself, let's care about others. Let's wear a mask because we care about everybody else. So again, I just want to thank you for your service to our country and your service to our region. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members, and to Dr. Garza, I just wanted to say thank you for these long months of service, these long months. I think we're 8 or 9 months into this now of having to collect this task force. Thank you for bringing the hospitals together, the hospital systems together, and leading us from the beginning. Please thank your staff for us. Thank the nurses, thank the respiratory therapists, everyone who is making really difficult decisions about how care is going to be administered. Our thoughts and prayers are with you as well, and with your staff, and please communicate that to them as we celebrate you and your work and your leadership. We know that you're a part of an amazing team. So thank you for that. And as our citizens of the city are handling this pretty well at the moment, we also know that means what's happening in the rest of the state is going to affect care that our citizens get for things that are not just COVID-19. And so just for all of our citizens of the city, as we have continued to take precautions seriously, continue to keep our numbers as low as possible, we have to continue to encourage our neighbors outside of the city to do the same, so that we can continue to access the basic healthcare and emergency healthcare that we need as well. So thank you again for your leadership, for being a constant voice, for your compassion. When you speak, we can hear that from you. You're not just someone who's speaking numbers to the public. We can tell that you care deeply, and that is helpful, I think, when we're trying to communicate the urgency of the time. So thank you again for your leadership, and hopefully we can let you get back to work here quickly this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman from 19th, I'm going to let you have a couple words and then I'll close with Dr. Garza.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. President and members of the board. I just simply wanted to say that his compassion, as was just stated by the Alderwoman from the 8th, we feel it. We feel it through the TV. We feel it when we read words that you have spoken. And I know that you are a strong part of even the path that St. Louis University took in the medical school of teaching a deeper level of bedside manner and all of that. So it comes through and we appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you very much. And believe me, this community is indebted to you. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Dr. Garza, I cannot thank you enough, from my family and friends and people, not just in St. Louis and the surrounding region, but across the country, who do not have an opportunity to thank you personally for having that wake-up call for them, right? To tell them to wear a mask, to tell them to practice social distancing, and to reiterate the severity of this virus, right? It is not something to be played with, and it's not something to be politicized. A mask is not a political statement. It is something that can save your lives and the lives of others that you come in contact with. And you've delivered that message, and you've delivered it in a compassionate way that has caused people to wake up and understand the severity of it. I know the job isn't easy. I know you're in the trenches, and it shows through your passion when you're speaking about it. And I'm thankful that we have you in the St. Louis metropolitan area to help lead us through these most trying times. This resolution that we're giving you today, we've given to heads of states, we've given to prime ministers, we've given to business and community leaders. It is the highest honor the board has to give any organization or individual. And what it does, it cements in time some of that person's many contributions up until that point in time, right? So that 100, 200 years from now, when you research the records of the city of St. Louis, you will read about Dr. Alex Garza and the role you played in helping us combat the coronavirus in 2020 and 2021 and get through it whole. And it is, when you put something on Wikipedia, people can change it. The only way this can ever be altered or changed is by a member of the Board of Aldermen, and that's one of 28 people. So again, I want to thank you for your service. Keep up the good work. Tell all of my friends back at SSM I said hi. And with that, we'll give you an opportunity to speak.
Great. Well, thank you very much for all of those very kind words. And I did prepare some brief remarks, and so I'd like to share those with you here now. And so, it seems like really eternity since COVID-19 first came to our city, and we still have a very troubling path to go before we see our way out of this historic pandemic. And many of you know the history of St. Louis in dealing with pandemics and how we have come together as a city and as a metropolitan area to do well by our citizens, both in 1918 and I think today as well. And so we continue on that really proud tradition of being able to first face adversity and really guide our city and our metropolitan area through it. But really, having these these feelings of humility because I really and I think about this. I just represent the thousands of healthcare workers who are really doing the heroic work every day. But it's also a great sense of pride and admiration for how they have really bravely gone to work in this disaster just day after day and hour after hour and sometimes against a backdrop of acrimony and political discord and even some patients' families telling them that they still don't believe in COVID. And this is what they face every day. As all of you know, is way back in the spring in March when we first saw our first case of COVID in the metropolitan area. And it was March 22nd when the first person in the St. Louis city died. And really in the metropolitan area died. And it was a 30-year-old woman. So to all of those people that say, well, it just affects, the elderly or the people that are sick, they're just wrong. And since that time, throughout the state, we now have over 325,000 cases and over 4,200 deaths. And when I think about those numbers, I think about the number of people that have been, touched by and care for countless healthcare workers in St. Louis and across our metropolitan area. And I think people sometimes, or the public, especially people that don't think it's real, don't understand it. These are the workers that, greet them in the emergency department, and they admit them to the hospital, and they bring them their food, and they clean their rooms, and they pray with them, and they talk with their families, and they just work their hearts out. Sorry.
No, take your time.
And it's really, hour after hour that they do all this. And they do it for one reason. They really want people to go home. But unfortunately, sometimes they're the last face and the last words that a lot of these people hear before they pass on. And that's excruciating to them. Now, like I said, St. Louis has performed exceptionally well, and one of you said this earlier. The city has done remarkably well compared to the rest of the state, and I would say compared to the rest of the country. And under very difficult circumstances. And I would hate to see how the state would look were it not for the bold actions in St. Louis, since we make up a significant percentage of the citizens within the state. And it's because of those bold actions that the citizens have done well. And I will point out, in special thanks, to Mayor Cruson and Dr. Eccles. They've been fantastic partners. I couldn't have asked for better partners in this fight, as well as, the senior leadership at BJC and SSM and Mercy and St. Luke's and the FQHCs, the business community. They've all stood up and helped. And so I'm very grateful for them as well. And the Regional Health Commission, I don't want to forget them either. And it's because of those bold actions, with those folks, as well as this body, including the mandatory masking policy, limiting gathering sizes, all of that has really helped to temper that workload that we're placing upon our healthcare workers. But I think more importantly, it has saved lives. And I don't think people understand that because of these actions, lives have been saved. There's no question about that. So, although, we in healthcare, we're often the recipients of either triumphs or failures of public policy. We recognize that we can't do this alone. Healthcare can't do it alone. We need everybody, everywhere, throughout the metropolitan area to do their part to limit really the unnecessary loss of life. So let me just close here, and many of you have mentioned my military service, and I have a great respect for people that with self-sacrifice and service to others, and you've probably heard me often refer to the pandemic as a war. And so one of the things I often think about when I think about our healthcare workers is a speech that General MacArthur made when he was saying farewell to West Point, and he was talking about how soldiers pray for peace, and in the sentence, which I've adapted to the healthcare worker, reads, "The healthcare worker above all prays for the end of COVID-19, for they must suffer and bear some of the deepest wounds and scars of the pandemic." So I apologize. But just on behalf of the healthcare workers in St. Louis, I really humbly accept your recognition. So thank you, Mr. Reed, and all of the leaders of the board. It's very much appreciated, your recognition. So thank you.
Dr. Garza, I cannot thank you enough for your passionate humility that you bring to this whole fight against the pandemic. You have saved lives with your approach and the way you're delivering this message. People are waking up to it because you're cutting through all the other background noise, all the other stuff that is distracting people from the severity of it. So I just want to thank you so much. Wish I was there to give you a big bear hug, but we can't do that during COVID.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll take a rain check on
Dr.
it.
Garza, yeah, take a ring. Let's give Dr. Garza a big round of applause. Thank you so much for your work. We are so appreciative of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep up the good work, Doc.
Sure. No, thank you all. Okay. Take
All right.
care.
All right. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we take up our courtesy resolutions calendar. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. With that, we'll return to our regular order of business. Introduction of honored guests. Any introduction of honored guests? Alderman from the 23rd. Any further introduction of honored guests? Any further introduction of honored guests? Alderman from the 23rd. There you go.
That was fun. Yes, as always, I would like my good friend Greg Meyer to be my special guest.
Well, welcome, Greg. Any further introductions? Alderman from the 10th, like to wrap us up.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Today's December 4th. This day in 1954, the first Burger King opened up. But more importantly, this is Santa's List Day. This is the day he finalizes who's naughty or nice. So please remember that during the proceedings of our meeting. Thank you very much.
All right, will do. Approval of the minutes.
Approval of the minutes for Friday, November 20th, 2020.
Alderman from the 22nd, you recognize on approval of the minutes.
Mr. President, members of the board, I move for approval of the minutes dated November the 20th, 2020.
Second.
On from 22nd, second on from 10th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, and C of the agenda and has been placed in the alderman's mailboxes.
Dispense with line item 7. Would anyone like to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Anybody like to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? We'll dispense with line items 8 through 10. First reading of board bills.
Board Bill 167, sponsored by Alderwoman Rice, and ordinance amending ordinance 71160, commonly referred to as the City of St. Louis Annual Operating Plan for fiscal year 2020 through 2021 for the purpose of defunding the workhouse and transferring surplus appropriated funds to the Division of Supportive Reentry, City Justice Center, Board of Public Service, and Re-envisioning Public Safety Fund, clarifying that Re-envisioning Public Safety Fund created by Ordinance 71217 shall be a special trust fund, making a supplemental appropriation as authorized by the St. Louis City Charter, Article 16, Section 6, and pursuant to the recommendation of the Board of Estimate and Apportionment and containing a severability and an emergency clause. Board Bill 168, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis, and ordinance recommended and approved by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the Director of Airports and the Comptroller of the City of St. Louis, owner and operator of St. Louis Lambert International Airport, to enter into and execute on behalf of the city the assignment and assumption of the interest and lease agreement AL 230 and consent of the City of St. Louis between Spire SNG Inc., containing a severability clause and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 169, sponsored by Alderwoman Martin, and ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing the City of St. Louis by and through the Board of Public Service to accept Missouri Department of Natural Resources Air Pollution Control Program Volkswagen Trust Awards for the VW Trust Grant Program for $423,000, containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 170, sponsored by Alderman Boyd, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing the City of St. Louis, Missouri to issue its taxable industrial development revenue bonds in one or more series in a total principal amount of not to exceed $6.7 million for the purpose of providing funds to pay the cost of acquiring, constructing, and improving an industrial development project in the city, approving a plan for such project, authorizing and directing the mayor and the comptroller to execute certain documents related thereto, and authorizing and directing the taking of other actions and approval and execution of other documents or as necessary or desirable to carry out and comply with the intent hereof. Board Bill 171, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment that provides for financial incentives for air service at St. Louis Lambert International Airport, authorizing the Director of Airports to implement and administer the program, containing a severability clause and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 172, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, providing for the transfer of up to $1 million that the City of St. Louis intends to transfer from the Airport Development Fund through the Airport Contingency Fund into the Airport Revenue Fund, providing for supplemental transfers containing a severability clause and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 173, sponsored by Alderwoman Ingracia, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service to conditionally vacate above surface and subsurface rights for vehicle, equestrian, and pedestrian travel in a triangular tract of land located on the northwest corner of 20th Street and Pine. The same area was previously dedicated per Plat Book 34, page 38 in the City of St. Louis, Missouri, as hereinafter described in accordance with Charter Authority and in conformity with Section 1.4 of Article 21 of the Charter and imposing certain conditions on such vacation. Board Bill 174, sponsored by Alderman Bosley and Alderman Muhammad, an ordinance approving the redevelopment plan dated November 17, 2020 for the Penrose, North Grand, Kossuth, and Fair area. Board Bill 175, sponsored by Alderwoman Ingracia, an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 2741 Locust Street redevelopment area. Board Bill 176, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service to conditionally vacate above surface, and subsurface rights for vehicle, equestrian, and pedestrian travel in Virginia from Shoto northwardly to a point, said point being vacated, Gratiot in the City of St. Louis, Missouri, as hereinafter described in accordance with Charter Authority and in conformity with Section 1.4 of Article 21 of the Charter, imposing certain conditions on such vacation. Board Bill 177, sponsored by Alderwoman Middlebrook, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service to conditionally vacate above surface, and subsurface rights for vehicle, equestrian, and pedestrian travel in 2nd Street from Tyler South Feet to the terminus in the City of St. Louis, Missouri, as hereinafter described in accordance with Charter Authority and in conformity with Section 1.4 of Article 21 of the Charter and imposing certain conditions on such vacation. Board Bill 178, sponsored by Alderwoman Hubbard, an ordinance amending ordinance number 70501, approving and authorizing the execution of a First Amendment to redevelopment agreement between the City of St. Louis, Missouri, and Alteria Jefferson Arms, LLC, authorizing other related actions and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 179, sponsored by Alderwoman Hubbard, an ordinance approving the petition of an owner of certain real property to establish community improvement district, establishing the Jefferson Arms Community Improvement District, making certain findings with respect thereto, authorizing other related actions in connection with the TDD project and containing an emergency clause and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 180, sponsored by Alderman Todd, an ordinance establishing two-way stop sites at the eastern and western intersection of Whittier Street and Washington Boulevard, regulating all traffic traveling eastbound and westbound on Washington Boulevard at the eastern intersection of Whittier and Washington Boulevard, regulating all traffic traveling eastbound and westbound on Washington Boulevard at the eastern intersection of Whittier Street and Washington Boulevard, and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 181, sponsored by Alderwoman Navarro, an ordinance pertaining to electric vehicle charging station, amending ordinance number 70797, which adopted the 2018 International Existing Building Code as amended and codifying said changes in Chapter 25 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis and contain a severability clause, savings clause, and an effective date. Board Bill 182, sponsored by Alderman Gunther, an ordinance approving the redevelopment plan dated October 27th, 2020 for the 2800 block of South Jefferson Avenue area. That is the extent of first reading of Board Bill.
Reference to committee.
To the HUD Committee, Board Bill 170, 174, and 178. To Neighborhood Development, Board Bill 175 and 182. To Public Safety, Board Bill 181. To Streets Committee, Board Bill 173, 176, 177, and 180. To Transportation and Commerce Committee, Board Bill 168, 171, 172. To Ways and Means, Board Bill 167, 169, and 179. That is the extent of reference to committee.
All right, we're gonna suspend with the regular order of business. We had Congressman Clay that was connecting. There were some connectivity issues. He should be coming in. I just got word that he's coming in now for a courtesy resolution being given by Alderman from the 21st. Alderman from the 21st, you're recognized. And I believe, I don't see the congressman in yet, but he should be, I think City TV 10 should have him connected momentarily. Alderman from the 21st, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I request that the clerk read resolution number 75 in its entirety.
Madam Clerk, could you read resolution number 75?
Resolution 75, honoring the Honorable William Lacey Clay Jr. Whereas the honorable members of the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis recognize the extraordinary life of public service, the Honorable William Lacey Clay Jr. Whereas Mr. Clay has served 10 terms in the United States Congress as a member of the United States House of Representatives, serving the 1st Congressional District of Missouri since 2000. Succeeding his father, the Honorable William Bill Clay Sr., who served 32 years. Whereas, as the member of the United States Congress, Mr. Clay served as chairman of the Subcommittee on Housing, Community Development, and Insurance. In his role as chairman, Mr. Clay fought for consumer protection and fair housing for all. Mr. Clay has also made it his special mission to take on the discriminatory and destructive practice of redlining in minority neighborhoods by banks, insurance companies, appraisers who have been allowed to exclude entire sections of America's cities on the base of race. And whereas during his congressional tenure, Mr. Clay served as chairman of the Subcommittee on Information Policy, Census, and National Archives, as well as a member of the Distinction Committee of Oversight and Government Reform. And whereas in 2008, Mr. Clay worked tirelessly to help elect the country's first African-American president, President Barack Obama Jr., and was the first elected official from Missouri to endorse in the Democratic presidential primary. Whereas in 2009, Mr. Clay, in a bipartisan collaboration, was successful in bringing the National Geointelligence Facility to the City of St. Louis as an $1.7 billion investment in the construction of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency Western Headquarters. Whereas in 2020, Mr. Clay was a principal co-sponsor of the historic CARES Act, which allocated $200 billion to local hospitals and community health care centers during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. The CARES Act also included a temporary moratorium on evictions and foreclosures for homeowners with federal-backed mortgages and renters in federally subsidized housing, $4 billion for emergency grants for homelessness assistance, $5 billion for community development block grants, and $1 billion for project-based rental assistance. And whereas prior to being elected to Congress, Mr. Clay served in both chambers of Missouri State and state legislature, being elected state representative in 1983 and being selected state senator in 1991. Now, therefore, let it be resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberation to remember the life of public service of the Honorable William Lacey Clay, and by the adoption of this resolution, we wish him the best in his future endeavors. We further direct the clerk of this board to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of these proceedings and to prepare a memory copy of this presentation to the Clay family at the time and place deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this 4th day of December, 2020 by the Honorable John Collins Muhammad, 21st Ward Alderman.
All right, thank you. Hey, Alderman Muhammad, would you like to move, suspend the rules to bring this resolution up real quick?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend the rules to introduce resolution number 75.
Second.
Moved by the Alderman from the 21st, seconded by the Alderman from the 22nd. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Evans.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Ingracia.
Aye.
Alderman Coder.
Aye.
Alderwoman Rice.
Aye.
Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderman Vollmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin. Alderwoman Grass.
Aye.
Alderwoman Murphy.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Green.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Rhodey.
Aye.
Alderman Todd.
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad.
Aye.
Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Navarro.
Aye.
President Reed.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I got you. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. 26 aye votes.
By vote, you stay in the motion, Alderman from the 21st, and introduced courtesy resolution 75. You're recognized, Alderman from the 21st.
Thank you, Mr. President. This resolution honors the dedicated life of public service of the U.S. Representative from Missouri's 1st Congressional District, the Honorable William Lacey Clay Jr. Representative Clay has dedicated his life to the people of the St. Louis metropolitan area, not only as our congressional representative and our voice in our U.S. Capitol, but as a member of the Missouri State Legislature, where he served in the House of Representatives and the Senate for almost 17 years. He then succeeded his father as the U.S. Congressman for the 1st Congressional District in 2000. Representative Clay has been an advocate for fair housing, civil rights, equity, in economic development in economically stressed neighborhoods. If it was not for our congressman, We would not have the National Archives and Records Administration in the St. Louis area. We would not have the $1.7 billion NGA project that is coming to North St. Louis. And we would not have almost narrowly defeated John McCain in 2009 when we elected Barack Obama. Mr. President, I think that it is only fitting that we honor our congressman for his years of service, for his 20 years as a congressman in the U.S. legislature, and thank him for all that he has done for not only the city of St. Louis, but for our country and our nation as a whole.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. Can you hear me? I'm having some audio issues.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Look, we have fiber issues in the 5th ward, but I just wanted to definitely add my name as a sponsor, and I definitely wanted to acknowledge Congressman Clay. Your leadership will definitely be missed. Your tenure, your seniority, just everything that you brought to the table and delivered for my ward for so many years. Prior to me ever stepping in public life, I know the real stories and I know what you did for our community. And I just wanted to thank you for that. We wouldn't have NGA without you. Before it became popular for everybody to salute it, you were right there with me in the trenches on the ground, getting beat up just for having the vision to do great things for St. Louis. So I thank you for that. And I'm just grateful for your entire family and all that you all have done and all that I know you all will continue to do without holding public office. So I thank you again. I feel this resolution is so deserving and I wish you the best in all of your endeavors. I know we'll see you around doing something positive. I'm shooting for that. So thank you again and good luck.
All right,
and that's
thank
all
you.
I have.
Thank you, Alderwoman from the 5th. Madam Clerk, please make note of that. Add the Alderwoman from the 5th's name to the resolution. Also add my name to the resolution as co-sponsor also. Alderwoman from the 1st.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'd also like my name added to the resolution. Congress.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to make sure.
Go ahead.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that. Please proceed, Alderwoman.
Okay. Many of you may not know, but I come out of the Clay organization unwillingly as I did not want to be in politics. The congressman's father twisted my arm for a number of years and made me get into politics and gave me good reasons for why I should have. So I called the Congressman Lacey to differentiate between Bill Clay and he. So he and I are the same age. We've been through much of our political career together. Besides the big things that you all talk about, there are a lot of small things that people don't understand that Congress people do. If I could do anything in life, I would try to clear up this misinformation that people have going on about what certain neighborhoods look like because who didn't do what. That really pains me to make me understand that a lot of people don't understand how legislation works, what the legislative body does versus what the executive branch does. If the congressman and his father, because I served with both of them, sent $100 million to St. Louis, it goes through the mayor's office most of the time. That's the executive branch. So when people bring up these reasons of what somebody didn't do, you really don't know what you're talking about. And if I could, I would like to do an article every week in the Post-Dispatch and American to give people civics 101 so that they would understand what's the different branches and what they're responsible for. I will say I've been so fortunate. I started in politics right when the congressman became the state senator. And the former state senator lived down the street from me, and he was also part of the gang that twisted my arms. But so we did a lot of things together. One of the things that I love about in my community is that he and his father, who was a congressman at the time, helped me get Lexington School. It was the first school built in North St. Louis in 30 years. And we got a brand new school. And so that was just wonderful for me. They also helped me work on getting the SNOOKS projects. We got banks, we did development. If you want to keep North St. Louis whole and thriving, then you have to know that you have to build communities. I was fortunate until this irresponsible redistricting was done in 2001. I built my community up where people already were middle class and working class and upper middle class, and the Clays were a significant factor in helping me do that. Because we are the same age, in fact, I'm 3 months older than the congressman, and I call him Lacey. So we grew up together politically, okay? And we didn't always agree on things, but at the end of the day, he did a good job. He voted correctly. We would have really loud conversations sometimes, but that's okay. When you come from a family, sometimes you do that. But I think that he did a wonderful job as the congressman. I would debate anybody on the facts, not on your emotion and misinformation. And he is going to be missed. And I've still called him because he's still my congressman right now. And I've encouraged him to also work with the next person who has taken his place, because people don't know until they get into office what they don't know. I remember a young Michael McMillan coming down here, and after he had become the alderman of the 19th, he came to me and said, "This job is not anything like what I thought." And that's what people are going to find out. The congressman, I've watched him develop into a statesman. Much more than his father, who Bill Clay will tell, his father would tell you off much more than Lacey. I consider him a friend. I will continue to reach out to him, and I hope that that the new congresswoman will take some of his leadership and mentors and advice, even if you at least seek it, even if you don't follow it. Lacey, I'm going to miss you. I remember when your father was getting ready to retire, he sat in my house and talked to me about retiring and how sad I was. And so now I watch another person. You know, I served with your uncle for many years. So the Clays have been a part of my family, my political family. And I want to thank you for all your service, and good luck to you and your family. And I look forward to working with you in another capacity.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman from the 23rd.
Yes, I think my name's already on it, but I was going to ask maybe if we would just do this in bank. So I'd like to make that motion.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 23rd, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 14th, that we make this courtesy resolution in bank. Any objections? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, please make note of that. Resolution.
And I also wanted to just thank Lacey. You know, he's been actually representing our ward too, and he's always been easy to get a hold of, or his staff, and you'll be missed. So anyway, thank you for all your years of service, and I'm sure you're not going away just yet. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman from the 19th.
Oh, wait a minute. Thank you, Mr. President.
There you go.
I just wanted to say and I consider our congressman a friend. There are too many things that people don't know, as the alderwoman from the 1st Ward stated. I remember when I bought my house in the 26th Ward, where I raised my children. And when I went to the ward meeting, I was just impressed. I always stayed in the background. I volunteered a lot. I remember Mr. Cersei and all those folks, you know, you took your guidance from them. And later on, Leroy Wilson was another one who made sure that things are in order. And that's what I like about the way your father and you took the same guidance. Things have to be in order. And that means you have to do your homework. You have to know people. You have to have people who are always talking, learning, and engaging. And that's something that I learned from you all a long time ago. And I also use it in my process in working. I thank you for all the help that you gave us when we were negotiating the DSEC settlement for the St. Louis Public Schools. It was one of the largest settlements in the United States. And a lot of people don't know about those things. I want to thank you for telling us the truth when we needed to know it, because that's really important. Some people just, you know, they They'll say anything and walk away and leave you in peril. But I appreciate honest conversations that we've had over the years. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to say thank you again, but I beg you to please stay involved with us. You know, the next few years is going to be very important for this, not only this community, but for this country to get back on the right track. Again, thank you very much, Congressman Clay. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 22nd.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I want to say to Congressman Clay, thank you for your many years of service, not just in Congress, but wow, since 1983, that's a long time of public service. I can only imagine the things that you've seen, the things that you've learned since then. I will never forget back in the late 90s when I called you when you were my state senator. And you know, you oftentimes hear people say, you call your elected officials, they never call you back. And I called you and I left a voicemail and you called back. And I was just super excited. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, the senator called me back. You listened to the issue that I had, gave me some good free advice. And I'll just never forget that. I really appreciate it. As Alderman Vaccaro from the 23rd said, 100% of the time when I've ever called you, if I didn't get you on the phone, I got a return phone call. And to me, that's just remarkable. I don't know what more you can ask from an elected official that's always 100, being responsive when a constituent calls. So I want to say, again, thank you for your many years of service. I appreciate the political friendship we have shared, the political wisdom, and St. Louis 1st Congressional District will definitely miss you, especially your seniority in Congress. Wish you nothing but the best and continue to keep St. Louis lifted up in prayers because we certainly will need it the next several years. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 14th.
Yes, I would like to thank Congressman Clay for his support as he expanded his representation into the 14th Ward and all of St. Louis. He's been a stalwart for the area. He knows the city. He knows what it needs. He will be very much missed by all of us here in St. Louis, and I encourage him to provide any information he thinks pertinent to his successor. Again, I appreciate his leadership. I appreciate his support, and he's been a wonderful congressman for the city of St. Louis. Thank you very much, Congressman Clay, and I look forward to seeing you around in the future.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. Alderman from the 7th. Alderman from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I believe we've already embanked this. I was going to make that motion. Congressman Clay, thank you for your many years of service. It's been a pleasure getting to know you over the past few years. When I first moved down to Soulard, I think I was in the 3rd Congressional District, but I very much enjoyed my time in the 1st and working with you and your staff, and wish you the best of luck and look forward to seeing you around the city.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman from the 4th.
Mr. President, I was going to ask that my name be added to the resolution, but since you called me, I'm going to make a statement that I didn't get much of a chance to interact with Congressman Clay in the position that I have, but I have been in the ward, 4th Ward, long enough to see his involvement in the 4th Ward. And I just want to extend that he continue to be a presence throughout the ward. And I just want to congratulate him on this resolution.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Thank you. Alderwoman from the 13th.
Yes, President, members of the board. I said I wanted to make sure my name was on in the in bank also, but I too would like to thank him for his years of service. I haven't been in his district all that long, just since the last turnaround. But I especially want to thank him for the NGA. I'm sure his seniority and had a lot to do with us keeping that in the city, and I appreciate that and very much. And I wish him the best.
Thank you. Alderman from the 17th.
Yes, Mr. President, I wanted to add my congratulations to the congressman for a great career. Our fathers knew each other and actually served together on the board. And I know that many people talk frequently about the whole idea of kids following their fathers into politics. And I think in my case, and I certainly don't want to speak for the congressman's, but I don't think it's that much different than, a father or a mother who's involved in the law or medicine who come home and talk about it at the dinner table, and their children, I guess, naturally are exposed to it and develop an interest in it. And I know in my case, I've considered it all actually a great advantage that my dad was involved in politics. I got probably some of the best advice of my life from him. And in politics, you frequently find yourself in kind of unusual or uncomfortable positions. And it's really great to have somebody that you can call and talk to who can walk you through that, particularly, when you're new. And I know my dad had was a great assistance for me. And I just have to think that the congressman, his career and what his father was able to give him contributed to his success. It is, when you talk about Congressman Clay and his father, they are St. Louis's first row witnesses to the history that's been made in Washington, D.C. for the last 50 or 60 years. And, what they've seen and what they've done is remarkable. And that was our city's kind of eye to history as it happened in real time. And those were difficult times, particularly for his father during the 60s and all the incredible change that happened then. And of course, now we're going through perhaps the most turbulent time since then. And, what a treasure for our region to have the two of them having been up there and witnessed all that. And I just want to congratulate he, and of course, we've done this before for his father a number of years ago, but between the two of them, it's a remarkable legacy that they've had and an imprint on the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Definitely want to say, certainly appreciate all the years of service that you have contributed of your life. It is extremely hard, especially following people would consider very, very large footsteps. And sometimes following in your father's footsteps. I want to comment off of the Alderman of the 17th Ward. You always hear those things. I don't know if you heard it, but I'm going to say it. Like, well, he ain't nothing like his daddy. You have done a lot of great things for our city, and each and every person that grows up in different times need different type of leadership. And I think within the time that I've grown up, and I've heard your name multiple times throughout my younger life and my adult life, you've done amazing things in our city that, regardless of what people can say, it has benefited our communities. And those things take a whole lot of fight. Takes a whole lot of beatings at the same time. A lot of times don't talk about how much we get beat up. So I appreciate every bruise, every nick, every time you've bled, every time you've cried for us without anybody ever knowing, and then waking back up in the morning ready to fight. So we appreciate everything that you've done, sir. I appreciate your family being a friend to my family. I appreciate you being a friend to the city. Once again, like Alderwoman from the first said, your voting record shows a history that a lot of individuals should be proud of, and some people may not be able to show, but yours And you should be able to walk out with your head high, knowing that you did great things for individuals and always will be respected from the individuals in our communities. So I really appreciate you. So thank you for your dedication. You have yourself a wonderful, I'm not gonna say retirement because we know you're not going nowhere. We will be calling. We need some help with some things. We know you still got friends in high places. So don't go be disappearing in small spaces.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Alderman from the 25th.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Congressman, for your distinguished time in our state capitol and also the United States Capitol, serving the citizens of the city of St. Louis and the St. Louis metropolitan area. As it's been mentioned a few times, obviously your record speaks for itself, but I have to also just on a personal note mention, which a lot of folks may not always realize, but you had a very consistent progressive voting record, particularly as it pertained to the LGBT community. And for me personally, that always meant a great deal, because I know that was not always an easy position to take. It's certainly become, when you were first elected in particular, it was very not much a common or popular position to take. And so I really appreciate your leadership and your record with that respect as well. It's made a huge difference to me as an individual, not just as a leader in our community, but as a human, as an individual. It's made a tremendous impact in my life as well. So I really want to thank you for your leadership in that aspect as well.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman from the 12th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank Congressman Clay for the service to the entire region, and I hope that you enjoy the next chapter of your life. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Alderman from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Plainly put, Congressman, thank you. A lot of folks may not know this, but I had the opportunity to actually work with the congressman in my other professional life, and never taking a curtain call. Congressman Clay has done one hell of a lot for the financial services industry and consumer protection. His tenure on the Financial Services Committee, the Housing Community Development and Insurance subcommittees, the Consumer Protection Committee, he has grown wealth for the underbanked. He has held large financial institutions very much accountable around the Community Reinvestment Act program. And lots of folks owe him that gratitude for the positions he took and the work he got accomplished. Congressman, you grew wealth for a lot of very poor people who are no longer considered poor. And you did it without taking a curtain call and being flashy. And I know a lot of banks, sometimes big stuffy banks, don't like to always work with Congress folks around where we can find common ground. But you gave that common ground space an incredible amount of leadership, and we found ways to impact people's lives. And I want to personally thank you for that. And on behalf of a lot of financial service practitioners, thank you for that leadership too, my friend. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Congressman Clay. I specifically want to thank you for your work on the Westlake landfill. That's something that I had the opportunity to work with you on before I was elected to the Board of Aldermen here. And I know it's not an issue that we talk about a lot here at the city, but it is definitely an issue that affects our entire region. And it's by far the most complicated environmental issue I've ever had a chance to study or experience. And it was because of the strong leadership and the bipartisan efforts that you helped lead that that landfill is now going to be cleaned up. And that really has an impact on the future of St. Louis. So many people, I don't think, understand the just kind of the dire situation that we have been in over the years because of that landfill and that situation. And so I just really appreciate not only as an elected leader here in the city of St. Louis, but as a resident in this region, your leadership on that issue and really diving in when it got complicated, and pulling together all of the different stakeholders, the different government agencies, and just being a persistent advocate for the cleaning up of that site. So thank you very much for that and for all of your leadership.
Thank you. Alderwoman from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I too just wanted to thank Congressman Clay and congratulate him, hopefully on a retirement as well, for all of his years of service. I do want to just say a couple of things. Early on in my career down here, I went through a time that was pretty difficult and pretty hard, and I was getting pretty frustrated. And the congressman knew that, and the congressman was one of the few people who reached out to me with some very encouraging words very early on, to keep my head up, to keep going, to keep fighting. And, you know, even though we're not always on the same page on every issue, I've always appreciated the ability to have an open line of communication and to talk open and honestly about issues. I've really appreciated his support over the years on progressive marijuana policy, on being willing to take a stance on a public vote for the airport, and always being willing to take that call or have his staff take that call to work with us on these very important issues. So enjoy whatever comes next for you. You will be missed. And thank you for the support and the open line of communication that you have given to me over the years. I really appreciate it.
All right. Alderwoman from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not to belabor all of the points, but definitely echo the sentiments of all of my colleagues who have spoken before me. When I was elected to office in 2013, Congressman Clay and his staff reached out to me and met with me with immediacy to sort of figure out where we had points of commonality and give me some guidance and pointers as somebody who did not come from a political family, who didn't really know a lot of politicians. And I really appreciated that, as well as through the years, everyone else has mentioned it, he always returned a phone call, always had staff at the ready. And most recently, we've worked on getting the Independent Restaurants Act passed in US Congress. And so thank you. Look forward to continuing to work with you in some capacity and appreciate the value and time that you've provided and the level of service you have to our city and county for many, many years. Thanks, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman from the 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I just want to thank Congressman Clay for all of his hard work and his dedication to the city of St. Louis, to our area, our region, and continued success in his next adventure and his next endeavors. And that's all. Thank you.
All right, Alderwoman from the 20th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to echo my colleagues in thanking the Congressman for your service to our St. Louis community and the broader community. In particular, I want to thank you for your strong stance, siding with the residents of the city in opposition to the privatization of our airport. Thank you for engaging meaningfully on that issue. I wish you the best in your future endeavors.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Alderman from the 21st, before I recognize you to introduce the congressman and the close, I just also want to just add my thanks to the congressman for a job well done. Growing up, my mother would always point out to us there's a big difference between a public servant and a politician because she followed politics. She said the public servant is in it for the people and in it for the service of the people, where a politician is in it for themselves and their friends. I am so honored to have had a long-standing relationship with you because you are the definition of a public servant. You've served the public well. You know, when you think about some of the things that you've done, and you know, you've heard the phrase, it's about progress, not headlines. The things that you've championed and the things that you've pushed have made progress in our city. I think when people look around the city and they see all the affordable housing units, they need to automatically think that we would not have had the block grant funding and none of those things to put those affordable housing units in place had it not been for Congressman Clay. The millions and millions of dollars that have been poured into this city to help stabilize neighborhoods, those funds came from Congressman Clay and his seniority, and leveraging, our interest in Congress, and to let people know that St. Louis needs funding too. St. Louis needs help too. The funds that you put in place to help us with coronavirus issues, right? But it wasn't just, when people think about coronavirus, they think about these things immediately. Every year and every day, there's been things from grant dollars to help us with healthcare issues and drug overdose issues, funds to help us with criminal justice reform. I mean, on and on and on and on and on. Families have been made more solvent and safe because of you. So I want to thank you on behalf of my family and friends for all that you've done and all that you will continue to do to make St. Louis a better place to live, work, and play. Alderman from the 21st, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and thank you to my fellow colleagues of the Board of Aldermen as we pause to recognize the Honorable William Lacey Clay Jr. I do want to say this. The Congressman has been instrumental in advancing our communities in every way and in every facet, not only from supporting President Obama and Vice President Biden in passing the Affordable Health Care Act, also known as Obamacare, not only working with the Department of Housing and Urban Development to make sure that we have quality housing here in urban communities. In my very ward, North New State Association, which has built 120 successful, affordable, low-income housing units that would have not been possible without the work of Congressman Clay. With us having a civilian oversight board right now, that would not be possible without the work of Congressman Clay, who passed a federal legislation requesting cities and counties to establish accountability measures for police departments. And he did that before Ferguson of 2014. And most recently, Mr. President and members of the board, Congressman Clay worked diligently with myself, with Alderman Bosley, former Alderman Moore, Alderwoman Tyus, and Alderman Jeffrey Boyd, and State Representative Joshua Peters to get funding from the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration to reconstruct Natural Bridge. When I reached out to our Congressman and State Representative Peters, and I told him about my concern, 133 deaths on Natural Bridge in 2 years. Congressman Clay jumped on the board. He moved quickly and he got us the funding that we need, $5.6 million at no direct cost of taxpayers to reconstruct this deadly stretch of Natural Bridge entirely within the city limits. I thank the Congressman for his service. And Mr. President, I want to be blunt. We talk about being progressive. We talk about being moderate. But none of that means anything when you represent a community that has been devastated, marginalized, and taken advantage of for the last 40 years. And not at the hands of people that look like you, but at the hands of people who do not understand the community that you represent. I thank our Congressman for his leadership, for his tenacity and his service. And Mr. President, I know that I am supposed to introduce the Congressman, but in the interest of decorum and in the interest of this special occasion, I will request for you as the president of this esteemed body to introduce the U.S. representative of the 1st Congressional District, Congressman Clay.
Thank you, Alderman. Congressman Clay, this resolution is the highest honor the board has to give any organization or individual. It cements in time some of your many contributions up until this point. So 100, 200 years from now, when you go back and research the records of the city of St. Louis, you will be able to read your story and know that you've passed this way and that you had such a significant impact that we paused in our deliberations on this day to recognize you. Everyone, please join me in a round of applause as we bring forth Congressman Lacy Clay for some comments.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President, and to my good friend, John Collins Muhammad, and all of the alder people who got on this resolution, who have spoken today. I am deeply heartened and honored by this recognition. You know, John F. Kennedy put it best in his inauguration speech in 1961 when he said, the time has come to pass the torch to a new generation of leaders in this country, and that's what has occurred here in this community. St. Louis is my hometown, which I am so proud of, born and raised here. I have always been committed to improving the conditions on the ground in this community. As Alderwoman Tyus mentioned, that she would like for me to interact with Congresswoman-elect Cori Bush, and I want to assure you that I will. We have spoken several times. We have met once, and I have offered to help in her transition. And understand that this is also a transition and an adjustment for me. Since I was 27 years old, I've held public office representing this community. And you talk about some of the achievements that we have accomplished together. Sharon, I'll let you know that quite a few of them will be in a forthcoming book that I'm writing about this community. And Alderwoman Navarro, it has been a pleasure working with you on environmental issues. I think about my first terms in Congress under the Slay administration and directing federal funding here to eradicate lead paint from homes throughout this city. I think about the old Army ammunition plant that I worked with Alderman Boyd with to clean up that hazardous site. And Alderman Bosley, I think about Carter Carburetor, where we were able to list that from a Superfund site and have just transferred that property to the Boys and Girls Club. Those are some of the accomplishments that I am proud of. I think about the 14 years that we conducted our annual career fair at Harris Stowe State University, where we not only connected people with good paying jobs, but with careers that made a difference in their lives. And so those are the kind of efforts that I'm proud of, and I'm proud of working with all of you on those issues. Probably our biggest accomplishment was the largest federal investment ever made in this community, which was NGA. And I pushed it so hard because I knew it was a game changer for North St. Louis. And I think that's the point I want to make today with all of you, that we need to realize that if one part of St. Louis suffers, then the entire part of St. Louis suffers. And so we have to start looking at the federal resources that come into this community and be willing to direct those resources to the areas with the most need. And that's what NGA is about. That's why we are pushing to develop affordable housing there, to bring healthcare there through a hospital. That's what, because that community lacks those amenities. And that will make a tremendous difference to the people who live in and around that neighborhood. All of those matter. All of those things matter, and could make a big difference. It could attract populations back to those communities, and that's what really would make a difference in this community. I'll say this, that I am looking forward, and it's going to be an adjustment and transition for me to the next chapter of my life. I will take a few months in retirement and experience that, and experience some of the things I miss with my children and my wife. But you will, this is not the last that you've seen of me. And I will direct my energies in another way. And I've heard a lot of you mention about the phone calls and returning the calls. I'm so glad I'm passing the torch to someone else to take those phone calls. So again, let me say, thank you all for this tremendous recognition. I love this city, I love this community, and I love you all, and God bless you all.
Oh, thank you so much, Congressman. Let's give them a big round of applause. We're just so thankful for you, Congressman. I know they said you had a tight schedule, so we'll let you go. We can let you go. I know you have a lineup of people waiting. So thank you so much for attending this morning. And you know, we've given resolutions out to people, and it's makes me feel so good to see your story written today, so that your history is properly documented. Thank you so much for all your years.
Thank you so much for this tremendous recognition. Take care.
All right,
Bye-bye.
thank you. We'll return to our regular order of business, second reading.
The following board bills were reported out of Neighborhood Development with a due pass recommendation. Board Bill 76, sponsored by Alderman Vollmer, an ordinance approving the redevelopment plan for the 2732 59th Street area. Board Bill 79, sponsored by Alderman Todd, an ordinance approving the redevelopment plan dated May 26, 2020 for 528 North Newstead Avenue area. Board Bill 108, sponsored by Collins Muhammad, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated August 25th, 2020 for the 5337 Von Pool Street area. Board Bill 109, sponsored by Alderman Vollmer, an ordinance approving the redevelopment plan for 5520 Daggett Avenue. Board Bill 110, sponsored by Alderman Vollmer, an ordinance approving the redevelopment plan for 5509 Magnolia Avenue. Board Bill 116, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, an ordinance approving the redevelopment plan dated April 21st, 2020 for the 3712 and 3716 Nebraska Avenue and 3717, 3719, 3728, 3729, and 3730 Oregon Avenue. Board Bill 125, sponsored by Alderman Vollmer, an ordinance approving the redevelopment plan dated September 22nd, 2020 for the 4914 Daggett Avenue area in the city of St. Louis. Board Bill 128, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for the 5266 Maple Avenue redevelopment area. Board Bill 130, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated September 22nd, 2020 for the 3620 Texas Avenue area. Board Bill 131, sponsored by Alderman Gunther, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated September 22nd, 2020 for 3170 through 3172 Oregon Avenue. Board Bill 137, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, an ordinance approving the redevelopment plan dated September 22nd, 2020 for the 4021 Iowa Avenue. Board Bill 142, sponsored by Alderwoman Howard, an ordinance approving a blighting study and the redevelopment plan for 4320 through 4330, 4350, and 4350 rear South Kings Highway redevelopment area. The following board bills were reported out of the Streets Committee with a due pass recommendation. Board Bill 147, sponsored by Alderman Todd, an ordinance authorizing and directing the Director of Streets to permanently close, barricade, or otherwise impede the flow of traffic on Vernon Avenue by blocking said traffic flow at the west curb line of North Kings Highway Boulevard at the intersection of Vernon Avenue and North Kings Highway Boulevard. Board Bill 149, sponsored by Alderman Narayan, an ordinance amending Ordinance 71111, prohibiting such traffic along West Park Avenue from the eastern boundary of Hampton Avenue to the eastern boundary of Hughes Place to extend said prohibition to include commercial vehicle traffic along Hughes Place between the northern boundary of Dale Avenue and northern boundary of West Park Avenue and containing the emergency clause. Board Bill 156, sponsored by Alderman Gunther, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service to conditionally vacate above surface and subsurface rights for vehicle, equestrian, and pedestrian travel in Louisa from Second as bounded by St. George, DeKalb, Louisa, and Second in the City of St. Louis, Missouri, as hereinafter described in accordance with Charter Authority and in conformity with Section 1.4 of Article 21 of the Charter and imposing certain conditions on such vacation. The following board bill was reported out of Public Safety with a due pass recommendation. Board Bill 166 as amended, sponsored by Alderman Boyd, President Reed, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Ingracia, Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Collins Muhammad, Alderman Vaccaro, and Alderwoman Boyd. An ordinance pertaining to the excise laws in the City of St. Louis, amending Ordinance 68536, Sections 14.06.100, 14.06.210, 14.06.220, and 14.06.240, presently codified in Chapter 14.06 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis, having as their subject matter drinking license licensing, employee-related licensing requirements, and employee criminal background checks, and contain the severability, emergency, and a penalty clause. That is the extent of second reading report of standing committees.
We will dispense with line item 14 before we go to the perfection consent calendar. Alderman from the 21st, I jumped ahead. I recognize you for the motion to adopt resolution 75.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I make the motion to pass resolution number 75 as amended. The resolution to
Second. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 21st, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 1st. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Alderwoman from the 1st, you're recognized.
Mr. President, if you would take off Board Bill 166 as amended from the perfection consent calendar, please.
Madam Clerk, please make, wait a minute. That's on second reading.
166 as amended?
Yeah.
No, it's on page 19. 164 as amended?
Oh, 164, okay, yeah. Yeah. Trying to
trick. That's all right. Oh, yeah, okay.
Trying to trick me.
Well, it was real easy.
Once my clerk, please place Board Bill 164 as amended on the regular perfection calendar.
So noted.
Anything further, Alderman for the 1st?
No, thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Perfection consent.
Board Bill 136, sponsored by Alderwoman Evans, an ordinance approving a blighting study and the redevelopment plan for North Newstead, Lexington, Whittier, Kennerly redevelopment area. Board Bill 159, sponsored by Alderman Rhodey, an ordinance dissolving special allocation fund for 4494 Lindell redevelopment area and terminating terminating the designation of a certain portion of the city of St. Louis, Missouri relating to such as redevelopment area, repealing ordinance number 70157, and authorizing certain actions relating thereto. Board Bill 165, sponsored by Alderman Rhodey and Alderwoman Navarro, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 66420, ordinance number 64928, ordinance number 65724, ordinance number 65910, and ordinance number 65443, dissolving the Special Allocations Fund for Maryland Plaza North, the Convention Headquarters Hotel, 1141 through 1151 South 7th Street, 1312 Washington and Martin Luther King Plaza area redevelopment projects, and terminating the designation of a portion of the city of St. Louis, Missouri as redevelopment areas and authorizing certain actions relating thereto. That is the extent of the perfection consent calendar.
Alderman from the 21st, you recognize on the motion for the perfection consent calendar. 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, I move for adoption of the perfection consent calendar.
Second. By Alderman from 22nd, second by Alderman from 10th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Board bills for perfection.
Board Bill 164 as amended, sponsored by Alderman Rhodey. An ordinance determined that the tax increment financing plans listed in Exhibit A are making satisfactory progress, except as noted under the proposed time scheduled for completion of projects therein.
Alderman from the 17th, you recognize on the perfection of Board Bill 164 as amended.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, this is the annual requirement that we file with the state, and it's just an update on how various TIF projects have been doing.
All right, Alderman from the 1st.
Mr. President, I request a roll call, please.
All right. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman from the 17th, you recognize to close.
I renew my motion.
Hold on for a second. Alderman from the 17th, entertain a motion for perfection of Board Bill 164 as amended.
I'm sorry, I missed something, Mr. President. Was there
a motion for perfection of Board Bill?
Oh, there was not a motion already? I'm sorry, I thought there was.
I didn't write it down. I was working.
Okay.
Do it one more time. Just
okay, I'd like to make a motion that we
perfect Board Bill 164 as amended.
Second.
Been moved by Alderman from the 17th, seconded by Alderman from the 10th. There's been a request for roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Absolutely no.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley.
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Negracia.
Aye.
Alderman Coder.
Aye.
Alderwoman Rice.
Aye.
Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin.
Aye.
Alderwoman Grass.
Aye.
Alderwoman Murphy.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Green.
Aye.
Alderman Odenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Rhodey.
Rhodey's aye. Rhodey's aye.
Alderman Todd.
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad.
Aye.
Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Pass.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Navarro.
Aye.
President Reed.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley,
Aye.
Alderman Orion,
No.
Alderman Cone,
No.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Boyd. 24 aye votes and 3 no votes.
By vote, staying the motion of Alderman from the 17th and perfected Board Bill 164 as amended.
That is the extent of Board Bills for perfection.
Third reading consent.
Board Bill 98, 119, and 150.
Alderman from the 22nd, you recognize on the motion for the third reading consent calendar.
Mr. President, members of the board, I move for adoption of the third reading consent calendar.
Second. Alderman from the 22nd, seconded by Alderman from the 10th. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus,
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Aye.
Alderman Bosley,
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Ingracia,
Aye.
Alderman Coder,
Aye.
Alderwoman Rice,
Aye.
Alderman Gunther,
Aye.
Alderman Balmer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin,
Aye.
Alderwoman Grass,
Aye.
Alderwoman Murphy,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Green,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg,
Aye.
Alderman Rhodey, Alderman Todd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad,
Aye.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderman Narayan,
Aye.
Alderman Cone,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderwoman Navarro,
Aye.
President Reed,
Aye.
Alderman Rhodey,
Rhodey's aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, and Alderwoman Boyd. 27 aye votes.
By vote, you stay in the motion of Alderman from the 22nd and third read and finally pass the aforementioned bills. Third reading report of engrossments.
We have none.
Report of enrollment.
Board Bill 98, 119, and 150.
All other business being suspended, the president shall in open session affix his signature hereto to the end that these may become law. Alderman from the 21st, you had something? Your hand is up.
I did. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to give a quick notation and shout out to the senator from Missouri, Roy Blunt. He was trying to access our Zoom meeting online, but was unable to do so because of technology difficulties. But he wanted to just join in and celebrate the resolution of Congressman Clay. He was not able to join, but he did send his notation and thanking the board for us pausing in our deliberations to do so. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And also thanks to our U.S. Senator. First reading of resolutions.
Resolution 73, sponsored by President Reed and Alderman Boyd. Last day for introduction of the board bills for the 2020-2021 legislative session.
Alderman from the 22nd, you're recognized on the first reading of Resolution 73.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, I move for adoption of Resolution 73.
You want to request unanimous consent first?
Sure. Mr. President, members of the board, I request unanimous consent.
Hearing no objection, please proceed, Alderman.
Yes, Mr. President, Resolution 73, according to our rules 56, which was adopted April 21st, requires the president to set the last date for introduction of board bills, in which the last date based on this resolution will be February the 5th. And before the 8th. So Friday, February the 5th will be the last full board meeting, before Monday, April the 19th. And January the 8th will be the last official day to enter board bills.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Would you like to now make the motion to adopt Resolution 73?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, I move to adopt Resolution number 73.
Moved by the Alderman from the 22nd, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 14th. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oppose? Motion carries. Madam Clerk?
That is the extent of first reading of resolutions.
Second reading?
We have none.
Miscellaneous unfinished business.
We have none.
Announcements.
Tuesday, December 8th, Public Safety will have a meeting 1 p.m. via webinar. Wednesday, December 9th, Rules will have a meeting at 10 a.m. via webinar. Thursday, December 10th, Personnel will have a meeting and it's a closed meeting. Education and Youth Matters will have a meeting at 1 p.m. via webinar, and Friday, December 11th, full board meeting, 10 a.m. via webinar. That's the extent of the announcements.
Alderwoman from the first.
Mr. President, members of the board, I understand that a former member of our board, esteemed board, Alderman Bosley, had a birthday this past week. Is that correct?
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to wish him, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Turned 88.
And I want to, although the present Alderman Bosley is one of my favorites, I'm so sorry that his dad is my favorite. So I wanted to wish him a happy birthday.
Oh, wow. That's happy birthday.
And then the other thing I would like to say is I got devastating news this week about school closings, potential school closings. And I want to say to this board, if we don't look at our own part in this with all the tax abatements and the tips that we're passing, we just go along and say, oh, ha, 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 ha. We better look at what we're doing. We're not going to have a school left in this system. I've been here since they first started closing the schools down back in the 90s. And I actually have a map of what the schools were. And to look at the schools that are closing is ridiculous, okay? There's not going to be a high school in North St. Louis. I cannot stress how disappointed I am to hear about Sumner. I know the numbers are down, and they're down for a reason. There's been a continuing plan of disinvestment in our community. Desegregation has not worked for us. It removed the scholars and the athletes and left people who didn't have any choices a lot of times, and it has not been a good thing for our community. Desegregation has not worked for us, and all of this tips and tax abatement that we pass at this Board of Aldermen is not good for our schools. And those of us who say we believe in public schools, we really need to take a look at what we're doing and how it's affecting our community. Because I can remember people saying how opposed they were to busing. I want to know how the children in North St. Louis, because it's not just Sumner, I think Northwest, how are they supposed to go to school without being bused? There are not going to be any schools. And I say this while my community, all the schools that they closed down when they said that we could not handle it when they did redistricting, We actually have 5 schools in our community. So we have private schools, charter schools, the school Lexington that we built. So I say this for the other communities and neighborhoods in North St. Louis. We have to find a way to stop this tide of closing down all these schools. We're not going to have any place for our children to go to school without getting on a bus for long times to get to school. And we ourselves at the Board of Aldermen are really going to have to take a deeper look at these TIFs, tax abatements, and everything else in other neighborhoods that's devastating our community. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had my hand up, but I lowered it. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I am very, very frustrated at this point about the closing of the schools, most especially in how those decisions are being decided. We are growing population in some areas, but yet you're closing our schools. We are developing affordable housing at some of the highest rates, but you're closing our schools. People have development plans for our neighborhoods, but that's going to harm those plans and they'll go somewhere else, because who wants to move into a neighborhood that does not have a school? I am very, very upset about this. I shared with someone who wants to start another charter school in my ward that at some point this has to stop. We do need some specialized charter schools, but the majority of the charter schools barely stay open 2 years, maximum 3. They've disrupted that child's education. Their test scores are lower than the public schools. And so there's this revolving door in children's lives. And at some point, we do have to fight against this. So right now, the school that's targeted to close in my ward, I'm going to help the community who is very upset and very involved fight against it, because we have numbers to prove that we are only moving forward. We're not declining. And the main reason why they're closing schools is because the population has disappeared. Population has disappeared. There's no one to go to the schools, but that is not the issue in every one of these neighborhoods. And so I think you need to, as alder people, make sure you get a copy of the record on what they use to make the recommendations so that you can examine it closely. And I think that it's really important that you work with your neighborhoods, because I understand the high schools. We have more high schools than any other public school district, but yet we have less students. So having 13 high schools really doesn't make sense. But we do need to do something, and we need to have our voices heard. But I do know for a fact that the main reason is because of population. It's the attendance levels are low. And when you have a school that was built for 1,800 students and you don't even have 200, I understand the cost of running that building.
Right,
but
thanks.
that is not the case in every one of these neighborhoods, and we need to get closer to this issue. Thank you,
Right.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Alderwoman from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President and board members. I'd like to piggyback off of some of what Alderwoman Davis said. And I know my ward has been slated with 3 school closings, 2 elementary and Sumner High. We fought against closing Hickey and Farragut before, when the school board recommended that they be closed. I had an opportunity to tour Farragut School to find out that that was one of our best kept secrets, because they were making the grades, but they were wanting to close it because of the numbers that were not there. You continue to take and close the schools that are in our ward. We have development coming. As Alderwoman Davis said, no one wants to move into an area or a ward where there are no schools. You know, I don't get it. I'm new at this, but I am a servant of the community, and I will fight hard to keep those schools from closing. And any help or suggestions from members of the board, I would appreciate it, because it doesn't make sense when you have development coming to an area that has been vastly overlooked and dismantled in the past, and to continue to dismantle it by closing our schools. I find it utterly ridiculous. So I'm asking for help and suggestions, and I hope that they don't continue to close our schools. Thank you, Mr. President and the board.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman from the 23rd.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of piggyback off all that, because I know in the 24th ward, and in fact, I think there's 2 schools that are closed, and 2 well, the second one may not be, but the other one on Wilkinson School is. And you end up with abandoned buildings, because not only do they close these schools, but they don't maintain their property. And you end up with this vacant, abandoned building in a neighborhood. And the cost to the neighborhood, I know that Alderman Cohn comments on the one in his neighborhood all the time. You end up with abandoned, vacant things. So there's a lot more, even in the closed school. It's just another abandoned, blighted building that ends up in people's neighborhoods. So I just wanted to comment on it. I was listening to the other comments.
Great, thank you. I've given some leeway on this subject matter, especially since the item was in all the one from the 19th ward. But this part of the meeting is just for announcement. So if you all have an announcement about something in your ward, that's what you do right now. We're not debating or having extensive discussions about an item that's not properly before this board. So if anyone has an announcement, we're open to those announcements. But again, this is not a discussion on education. Alderman from the 9th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll make an announcement. This weekend is typically the Cherokee Street Cookie Spree and Print Bazaar. We are going online this year, so please check out Cherokee Print Bazaar, and all of our vendors will be online. And then also Cherokee Antique Row will still have their Cookie Spree, socially distanced. So please come out and support our small businesses and what is normally, I believe, our 32nd annual Cookie Spree. So there's an announcement.
Perfect. Thank you, Alderman from the 9th. Alderman from the 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I just want to send my condolences to my committee man, Larry Middlebrook. He lost his brother yesterday to a massive heart attack, a man that was extremely healthy with no medical conditions. So just, send virtual hugs to your loved ones and check up on on the ones that you love. Thank you.
All right, would you like us to have a moment of silence for?
Yes, please.
All right. What was his name?
Bill Middlebrooks.
Bill Middlebrooks. I'll ask everyone, the board, to please join me in a moment of silence for Bill Middlebrook. Thank you, Alderwoman. Please pass our condolences and prayers on to your father and everyone and family for this loss.
Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to pass along best wishes to our colleague from the 15th Ward who is presenting and defending her PhD after a long time and a lot of incredibly hard work. Coincidentally, it is on the state of public education here in our area. So looking forward to learning more about what she uncovered in her research, and best of luck this afternoon, Megan.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know during this holiday season, a lot of events have been canceled because of the pandemic, and I just want to let people know that in the Central West End, the windows are decorated and there will be kind of ice sculptures out and about. So if you're looking for a way to still take in the spirit of the season, socially distanced and masked up, you can walk around outside and still see the lights, see the local artwork, and so many of the other festivities. It will be a little different, but at least it's something. So I just encourage everyone to get outside as best they can and do it in the Central West End and enjoy a little holiday cheer. And good luck, Megan.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman from the 4th.
Yes, I'd just like to mention that on December the 12th, I will be having a virtual town hall committee meeting, and I will post it on Nextdoor for those that would like to listen in.
All right, thank you, Alderwoman. Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Alderman from the 22nd, you're recognized on the motion to excuse. Alderman from the 22nd, recognized on the motion to excuse. Alderman from the 22nd, you're recognized on the motion to excuse. May have lost connection. Alderman from the 10th, do you have the list for?
I do not have the list, sir, no.
Madam Clerk, could you please tell the list?
I do have now.
All right, Alderman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I'm moved to excuse the Alderman from the 26th and 27th Ward from necessary absence.
Moved by the Alderman from the 10th, entertain a second on that motion.
Second.
Seconded by the Alderman from the 23rd. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alderman from the 22nd, you recognize on the motion to adjourn.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, I move to adjourn until next Friday, December the 11th, 10 a.m. webinar.
Second.
Moved by the Alderman from the 22nd, seconded by the Alderman from the 10th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?